President M. Roy Wilson, Wayne State University. Thanks for being here on American Black Journal.
Always a pleasure.
So I want to start with the opening of school, which is kind of just around the corner.
Right.
It seems maybe more distant this year because it seems like there's so much uncertainty. Each week brings new numbers and new possibilities and circumstances that administrators like yourself have to kind of think through and then react to. So give me an idea of where you are today with what the opening of school will look like and what you think it will look like when we get to Labor Day in September.
Yeah, so the first thing I guess I would say is that a lot of universities started announcing their decisions about whether they're going to be online or in person very early on. Some in May, for example, many actually in May. And I think predominantly those announcements were that they were going to be in person. And I think a lot of that had to do with understanding that that's what students wanted, and wanting to get as much enrollment as possible, and thinking that if they said they were going to be online, that might affect their enrollment numbers. And then California State came out and said, and they have almost 500,000 students, 400 and some thousand students, and they said they were going to be fully online. And so that kind of changed the landscape a little bit. And other universities then said, okay, well, if they're going to do it, then we're going to be online too. I really didn't see a point in making a decision so early. And so we consciously decided we were going to wait as long as possible and make a decision as close to when we're going to open as we can. And we felt that we needed a little over a month in order for students to be able to, get their classes and faculty to get prepared, and for the registrar to get the classes on up and so forth. So we decided that July 15th was when we were going to make our decision. So we made our decisions on July 15th. And the situation in terms of the public's health on July 15th is very different from what it was in May.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to be closer to what the situation is going to be third week of August when we start school, because we waited. And so there may be some changes, but it's going to be slight. It won't be a complete reversal. And so where we are now is we're going to be about 20% of our classes will be in person. Mm-hmm. Most of those will be classes like dance and art and laboratories and things like that. About 46%, I think it came out to be, is going to be remote or online. 2% will be hybrid, which is mainly online, but having to come in for certain things. And then we have a lot of classes that are individually arranged, because we have a lot of graduate students and PhD students, and they're doing PhD theses and other things, independent research projects, those kind of things, and that makes up the remainder. And so we think that we're going to be pretty close to that when school starts the third week of August.
Yeah. Do you anticipate that the experience for students will be consistent with what their expectations are? I think, everyone misses all time in class.
Yeah.
Will these hybrid approaches work?
Well, I think the expectations of the students are changing. I think that they're becoming much more realistic to the reality that this is not going to be a normal school year. Mm-hmm. And so, now that's not to say that a lot of the things that they want out of school they can't do, because they're very innovative and they're very tech savvy, and I'm amazed at some of the ways they're finding to connect with their colleagues and still do a lot of the social programming that goes on, but doing it in a virtual way. So, but it's not going to be the same as what it was pre-COVID. And I think there's a realization that has sunk in that it is a different world right now, and it's probably likely going to be like this for at least the rest of this year. And my bet would be that into half of next year.
I want to change subjects slightly and talk about the university's graduation rates, both for all students and for Black students. It's a subject that has been a real challenge for Wayne for a long time. You've done a lot of work with your administration trying to move the numbers. The good news is the numbers are moving. You've more than tripled, I think, the graduation rate for Black students, but you still have a lot of critics, including some members of the Board of Governors there at the university, who say it's just not enough, that it's not going fast enough. How do you respond to that?
Yeah. So the first thing is let's just get the facts out. In 2011 or 2012, when the board decided that something just absolutely had to be done, our graduation rate was 7% for African Americans and 26% generally. Right, and we made a strategic plan a couple of years later, a year after I came, in which we targeted 50% as what we wanted our graduation rate to be by 2021. We reached the 50% this year. And by the end of this summer, it'll be about 52%, between 51 and 52. So we reached that. Our Black graduation rate has increased from the 7% to this summer, it's 24%. Our 5-year graduation rate, so that 5-year will be the class that came in 2015 cohort, is already at 25%. So the 6-year graduation rate for that class is going to be well over 25%, since the 5-year is already 25%. So it could be, well into the 30s for all I know. So I think that a lot of progress has been made, and certainly from externally, the external world sees that and has put Wayne State up as a model for improving graduation rates, including for underrepresented minority populations. And as a result, we did receive, national awards for doing that. The objective data shows that we are in 2017, I think it was. I haven't checked most recently, but at the year that we received a national award, the APLU Award for Degree Completion, we were #1 in the country in terms of the rate of improvement of our graduation, both for African Americans and the general body, from where it was in 2011 to, at that point, 2017. So I think we're making good progress. Now, are we satisfied? Heck no, of course not. And we'll continue to keep improving. We're not plateauing. We're continuing to improve. Our numbers for African Americans are just continuing to go up and up and up. So we won't be satisfied until there's no disparity at all between our white students and our African American students. But can't do that overnight. It is going to take a little bit of time. There are a lot of factors involved.
Yeah. What's a reasonable time frame to put on that if now is not the reasonable answer?
Well, I think the trajectory we're on, that we should be able to do that in another 5-6 years. That's very aggressive, but when you think about it, we went from 7% to, let's say, 25%. if we can go from that now, this 25%, and just keep on the same trajectory, we should be at 50% in another, let's say 6 years, which is what I'm counting from 2011 to 2017. So that's aggressive, but we're going to do our best to try to get there.
Okay. All right. Roy Wilson, president of Wayne State University. Always great to catch up with you. Thank you for being with us on American Black Journal.
Always good to see you.